Hello, everybody. Thanks for staying till the last session. Happy to have everybody here. We've made it through a great conference, and thanks to RCBC for organizing such a great panel today with Cam and Nabil, and in general for putting this event on. So today I'm going to be talking a little bit about a waste to resource hub that has emerged in Nanaimo, and what's going to be a little different and interesting to contrast with Nabil and Cam's presentations is that ours has occurred more or less by accident. But I'm going to show you a little bit about how that accident is maybe not so accidental, how some of these conditions that existed where we are operating led to this organic hub occurring. The other thing I'll point out is that this is very industry. We are completely operating as independent for-profit industries in this hub. And yet we still benefit from our proximity superpower. I love that expression. There is a lot of benefit to that. All right. Okay, so really quickly, if those of you don't know, the last day or so, I've been introducing myself as the person who does dirt recycling. We work at the dirt factory. I know that's an oversimplification. Basically, GRT is a business where we receive waste and excess soil from construction and development sites. We use a soil washing technique as well as some significant water treatment to clean and sort the aggregate out of that soil and rock, and then we produce clean construction materials for beneficial use, for use by the construction industry. So we make a number of products I'll show you in a minute. Well, here we go. So this is just a super simple picture. If you look on the bottom right-hand side, you'll see the raw material that we receive. You can imagine in your mind's eye an excavation. And if you can picture, there's going to be little bits of clay and rock and cobble and soil and gravel. All of that is a valuable resource. I'd like to reframe, not waste, but a resource, an underutilized resource that we are trying to reclaim. On the left, those are some of the examples of products that we make. Everything from a sand that meets a C33 specification under CSA and ASTM to different grades of gravel. We produce boulders and large rocks as well. One of my colleagues calls them Volkswagens every time they're about yay big. And a silty clay or clay silt product at the bottom. And here's, really the benefit of what we make. And what I'd like you to imagine is every grain of sand that we sell to someone or gets used was originally destined for permanent disposal. And that is the default everywhere else in the province, other than clean fill. And I would actually point out that on Nabil's side of Eco Waste, there is a BC Earth Exchange who brokers various deals for clean soil movement through the province. So there are people working in this clean soil space for sure. As much as possible. I think our special sauce is that we're able to recycle and clean contaminated soil of all different contaminants and return it to good use. So I know this is the last session before lunch, so we're just going to play for just a minute. Clusters, that's what I'm here to talk about today. A cluster, a hub, a synergistic partnership. And I'd like just to hear ideas from the audience. Any clusters you can think of that are not the business cluster I'm going to talk about. I've got some clues. Any ideas? Just names. I've got candy. Anyone? Name a cluster. Come on.
Silicon Valley.
There you go. That's business cluster. How about even more generic? Any cluster. Literally a coral polyp is a cluster. Constellations. There you go. What was that? The local cluster. The local, sure. Anyone else? Very candy. Yeah, watch your face. Sorry. Very funny clusters. Oh, love. Okay, I don't think I can reach that far, but these candies are yours after. Awesome. All right, that's just to try to wake everyone up before lunch. Okay, so yes, Christoph was absolutely right. There are, what is a business cluster? A business cluster is a geographic concentration of interconnected or related businesses, suppliers, and associated institutions in a particular field. So imagine doing your work, and I'd like to point out Cam's presentation, doing your work, and suddenly there's an ecosystem of trained people, of suppliers, of money, of equipment that is locally available to you. Even for non-subsidized private businesses, this creates a ton of opportunity and benefit. And effectively lifts us all up together. These are two really common examples or popular examples that I think people you can anchor in your head what a business cluster is. In thinking about clusters, well, first I'd like to just take a moment to thank the Nanaimo First Nation on whose land our cluster operates. And in planning for this panel and reading over my fellow panel members' presentations and my presentations, or my presentation, it occurred to me that a cluster is a form of community. And the community values that we share are collaboration, collective success, lifting everybody up together, pooling resources, sharing knowledge. And this approach that we're taking reflects some principles that are used by the Nanaimo Nation in their ways of learning and collaborating. So I'd like to acknowledge that. It's not something we're claiming to replicate, but it is something that we're trying to learn from the people on whose land we are operating. Oh, and that is Minister Tamara Davidson on our site, who we were really proud to host a couple of months ago. Everyone likes the rock factory, the dirt factory. All right, so where is Duke Point? Now I'll get into our specific cluster. Well, first of all, where's Nanaimo? Nanaimo, for the uninitiated, is on Vancouver Island, and it's roughly equidistant between Victoria and Vancouver. You can see it on the left-hand side. On the right-hand side, we've got Duke Point. Duke Point is that long, skinny peninsula where it says Jack Point and Biggs Park. It is east of the Nanaimo River estuary and fairly proximate to the main island highway, which is the number one that you see down there. Okay, so now we're into how did our accidental hub occur? Why did this happen here? Well, there are a number of factors that led to the creation of this hub. And one of the key ways that a business cluster can emerge is because of a natural feature. If you think of the fishing industry in the Maritimes, for example, that's a great example of a geographically specific natural feature that creates a hub. I would actually argue that Metal Tech Alley absolutely is a hub that is generated from a natural feature. In our case, proximity to several key transportation features contributed to the emergence of our hub. There are 2 barge ramps, a ferry terminal. We're a short barge distance from Vancouver, and we're very close to the number 1 highway, which is the significant transport artery up and down Vancouver Island. So this is an ideal physical setting for waste to resources businesses because we're very transport and cargo heavy businesses. We need to move a lot of material both on the raw incoming side of things and on the finished product side of things. And so proximity to this type of transport and cargo infrastructure, I think, was really critical in attracting a number of these waste to resource businesses. We're also a logical fit for a port, and we are situated on Nanaimo Port Authority land. We serve both port dredging and development activities, as well as some of the needs of their tenants. And then the 3 levels of government, the top 3 levels of government there, those were with whom we consulted and who ultimately welcomed us. They all share really strong visions for a more sustainable Nanaimo. So from that point of view, it's perhaps less surprising that a waste to resource hub emerged in this location. These are the types of businesses that these governments were looking at, welcoming, and talking to, which also makes it a really exciting place to work. And I'll talk about that in a minute. In fact, in this minute. So this is, okay. These are some examples of the waste to resource businesses that are currently operating at full scale on Duke Point. I want to talk about a couple of advantages of hub. And one interesting one is, why would you want your competition close by? Why would that be a benefit? Well, I'll say for starters, working in the same space as people who are doing similar things, it does drive healthy competition. And I think healthy competition, I think of like a shopping mall, for example. Which business is keeping their staff the longest? Who's running a cool promotion that's attracting people? And what sort of constraints or difficulties are you all collectively having in that space and then want to solve together? So that's how I think of that healthy competition. Knowledge sharing, knowledge spillover. I was just talking with folks in the corner, Jay, about the recent theft we had and the ability to talk with your neighbors about how to do theft prevention and security. That's not a very happy story, but it is when you can call your neighbors and you're all collaborating and sharing on ideas. I was speaking with ABC Recycling, who were here yesterday. We were talking about sharing an immigration broker and what kind of advice they'd received and how we might be able to use that advice. But I think for me personally, and I think for a lot of these businesses, just the inspiration from being in an area where everybody shares very similar values. I'll give you some examples. One of these businesses, their tagline is "Nothing left behind." Another business uses the line, "It's not waste until we say it is." You could use either of those taglines for our business. You could use our tagline for their business. This exemplifies the fact that we are sharing values. So it's exciting to align with folks who are as determined as we are to reframe waste as a resource. You go to barbecues out there, facilities, and everyone's talking the same language and equally, nerdy and excited. All right, more waste to resource hub perks. I don't know why I have animation in here. Oh, let's go back up. A cluster also attracts and retains strong suppliers who can service more than one business in the area. If you think of Hollywood, you think of Silicon Valley. We share several key suppliers with our neighbors, including Preferred Trucking Company, our main pump supplier. I'll give you an example. We have a very qualified electrician who does his business from the town of Cedar, which is a very, very small rural community just outside of Dew Point. So there's this highly qualified electrician who lives in this rural community because he services multiple businesses in this hub. He's able to keep a roaring trade. I wish it wasn't the case when we have to keep getting the electrician in to fix our gremlins, but he does a roaring trade there. And so having those suppliers who are already mobilized to your facility or mobilized to your area, they're more likely to drop in, they're more likely to be able to provide competitive service, lower mobilization costs. It's a real benefit. Another one is labor market benefits. When the local mill reduced its workforce, we received a number of qualified applicants at our door. And if we didn't treat our employees right, they would have an opportunity to go and work for a number of our competitors. So, I mean, it's not why we treat our employees right, but certainly there's a credibility and I don't know, a shared value again that you're working in this area. And we also share some similar input and output dependencies, which is a little bit what Cam was talking about with Metal Tech Alley. And that is, some of the waste products that we make become feedstock for other suppliers and businesses in this area. Okay, and what was the benefit of these synergistic partnerships, of the proximity superpower? Well, in our case, we've diverted over 500,000 tons of rock and dirt and soil. I mean, there's technical words, but let's just call it dirt, from landfills, from permanent disposal. And we've managed to recycle over 95% of it into beneficial use products. And we've created meaningful employment for 40 people in Nanaimo. And we're just getting started. We have plans to expand in BC and across the border to the US. And that's it for me. So if you have any questions about the Dirt Factory, we welcome visitors. And again, I'd like to emphasize this is a really meaningful business advantage that we're experiencing. Actually, I wish we had an honest broker who was putting this all together, but it's really cool to see that it has happened organically. I wish we had a vision like Eco Waste where people were really curating this, but it still happened naturally. And to me, that says it is valuable. It has value. So if we can curate and cultivate, like my panel colleagues here, and I know Nanaimo is starting to look at how they might curate this a little more, it really does help business to thrive. That's it for me. Thank you.